That's why I'm here.
You made a statement that the IRS is one of the, maybe the most frightening agency. But I'll tell you, coming from ranchers and farmers and landowners, the EPA is the scary bear in there. I mean, there are limits, well, there are really not limits on the IRS. They can do whatever they choose. But I'll tell you what, the EPA can do whatever they choose and then sue you for doing it. I mean, they are ruthless. I've heard so many complaints. Is there any way, my couple questions to you would be, is there any way to gut the Endangered Species Act? Because the government uses that as a sledgehammer. Up here in our country, we got the limestone salamander, we got red-legged frogs, I think there's yellow-legged frogs. There may be pink-legged frogs. Every time I hear of animals I never heard of,
I know.
And yet if they can find one on your property, you're going to lose your property.
Right.
I mean, that happens all the time. They go to a rancher and they flag off your whole pasture because of some elderberry bush out there, and you can't even walk out there much less put cattle on it.
Yeah.
The two questions I'd have is there any way to gut that Endangered Species Act to stop them from taking our land? And then the other question is, I've always had a problem with unemployment numbers. Everybody that knows that's a lie, because everybody that's truly unemployed but quit looking, they quit counting.
Yeah.
So they say it's 5.5%. I'll guarantee it's 23 or 24%, but they neglect to count them anymore, so it looks good. Is there any way to make them start not lying?
Well, no, that's right. Okay, let me address the unemployment issue first. You're absolutely correct, but they actually report a number of different unemployment rates. And the one that they normally report is, you're correct, highly misleading, because if you're, if you're stuck in a 15-hour-a-week job because that's all you can find, you're counted as employed. If you're a PhD in, I don't know, aerospace engineering, and you're forced to work at a McDonald's, you're counted as fully employed. And as you point out, if you simply quit looking for work, you're no longer included in the numbers. However, they do have other unemployment rates that they quote at the same time. The problem is they're just not reported. And you're correct, what we would think of as the unemployment rate is more, I forget the exact figure now, I think it's around 14 or 15% level. We have the lowest labor participation rate in 37 years. That means that's the total amount of the population that's actually simply is opted out. Some because of retirement, others because they just can't find work and they've given up. And that's a huge problem. So anyway, those numbers do exist. I agree with you, the number that they normally report is misleading, but those other numbers are also reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. As far as the Endangered Species Act, we don't need to gut the Endangered Species Act, we just need to put some common sense provisions in it. The example I use is my district used to include the Klamath Valley, it used to go all the way up to the Oregon border before we apportioned it. They want to tear down 4 hydroelectric dams in the name of the Endangered Species Act because of a catastrophic decline in the salmon population on the Klamath. And I said, really, how many salmon are left on the Klamath? Only about 350. And I said, that's terrible. Why doesn't somebody build a fish hatchery? And then I'm informed that somebody did build a fish hatchery. The Iron Gate Fish Hatchery produces 5 million salmon smolts every year. 17,000 of those salmon return as fully grown adults to spawn in the Klamath every year. The problem is they don't let us include them in the population counts. And then to add insult to injury, when they tear down the Iron Gate Dam, the Iron Gate Fish Hatchery goes with it. The environmentalists say, well, it's just not a fish born in a hatchery are just not the same as fish born in the wild. And I asked them, well, what's the difference? They clip their fins. The fact is, the difference between a fish born in a hatchery and a fish born in the wild is the difference between a baby born at the hospital and a baby born at home. So I've made this modest proposal. We actually had it, a form of it in both the Nunez and later the Valadeo legislation on water, and that is count the damn hatchery fish. Allow us to meet the ESA requirements by either fish hatcheries or captive breeding programs. You don't have to forsake species, but there are much more sensible ways of preserving them than closing vast tracts of land to any kind of human activity, particularly when you're talking about the toads and frogs issue, which is not even the human activity that's causing the population decline. There is an amphibious virus that is wreaking havoc on those populations and is going to continue to wreak havoc on them, whether or not we shut out all of the people or not. Anyway, okay, yes, final question.
I have a quick yes or no.
Okay.
Because you work it with water, has there any planning been done about desalination facilities?
Well, yeah. Desalination works if you don't mind your water bill tripling. Yeah, that's the basic problem. It's very, very expensive. It makes sense. If you go to Aruba, which is a desert island in the, off of the coast of, I guess it's Venezuela, virtually all their water is desalinated because they don't. It's an arid desert island. Israel does a lot of desalination because it's very arid there, and they don't have a lot of fresh water sources. But it is very, very expensive. And the estimate I saw was about 3 times your current water bill. The good news is we're in one of the most water-rich regions of the country. We don't lack water; we lack water storage. Which can be done for a fraction of the cost. The problem is, as we've been discussing, we've chosen not to. And the good news is that's something that we can change.